Hi everyone, this is a walkthrough of your practice tool about sustainable cities. Okay, so we're going to just look at page 1 first. Okay, and then you can watch the subsequent videos for page 2 and the walkthrough for the questions. All right, so let's start with this first. Okay, this is a summary of what you've learned about how to manage cities such that they are sustainable. Okay, so what does a sustainable city look like? What are the characteristics? What comes to mind when you think of the term sustainable city? All right. So this picture is the future Tengah town. Okay, they'll be built in Singapore. Okay, is your idea of a sustainable city like this? Okay, or does it look like this? Okay, and like this. Okay, most of you will probably say that a sustainable city looks like this to you, right? Okay, where there's a lot of where the environment is very good, there's little pollution, you want to stay here for the long time. Okay, so what is a sustainable city? A sustainable city is a city that can last into the future. Can you please highlight this? Okay, so a city is sustainable, or the city is sustainably managed, because some city are built way beforehand. Okay, when it can last into the future. Okay, have you filled this up already? Okay, so why is a city considered sustainable? Number one, the city is not easily destroyed by hazards, like this photo I show you. Okay, so this was a city in Japan called Kobe. In 1994, when the earthquake happened, a hazard like earthquake happened, uh, the whole highway and many buildings collapsed. Okay, so parts of the city were destroyed. Okay, here's another one. In Japan also, parts of the Tohoku region. So what happened in 2011 was that there was a major tsunami, a huge wave that came in after an earthquake, and it destroyed so many parts of the city. Okay, so when is a city sustainable and can last in the future? Definitely not like this. All right, a city is sustainable when they are resilient against hazards. Okay, hazards are basically danger lah. All right. So when they're resilient against hazards, they are not so easily destroyed. Okay, another reason why cities are sustainable, like what we saw in Tengah Town, because it has a good environment and it provides a good quality of life. That means the conditions are very good. That is why people want to stay there. Okay, so when people will continue to stay there, the city will continue to last into the future. If nobody wants to stay there, the city will be gone within like 10 over years. Okay, the third reason is that cities can have things that make people live sustainably. So basically, it helps them to adopt a sustainable lifestyle, like things like, for example, get them to recycle and reduce waste, get them to drive less. Okay, and that is why they it makes the city more sustainable. So for Tengah Town, if you were to search for its plans, right, you will realize that when it's planned, okay, how does it make it more sustainable? You realize that there's hardly any roads in the city center. This is the city center. Okay, sorry, this is the town center for Tengah Town. All right, the MRT station here. This is probably a shopping mall and housing. You will see that there's no roads in the middle of the city, in the middle of the town. Okay, all the roads are underground. Okay, and they have a lot more cycling lane to encourage the people in this part of Singapore to cycle instead of drive. Okay, so when less people drive, there will be less pollution into the air. Okay, so these are the three main reasons why a city can last in the future, and this is why we call it sustainable. Okay, so how can we make a city sustainable? What are the ways? There are two main ways here: environmental management. Environmental basically means the surroundings of the city. Okay, so we manage it. What do we mean by managing the surrounding? It means that we want to reduce the problems so that we can improve the surroundings. Okay, the second method is to improve the quality of life of the residents living there. That means they become better, they have better health, happier. They can have more opportunities and things like that. Okay, so what are some of the things? All right, firstly, managing hazards. You can use better quality materials so that buildings will not collapse during disasters, or will not be destroyed rather. Okay, so for example, some buildings are actually fireproof. Okay, that means when there's a fire happening in one part of the building, it is built such that it will stop the fire from spreading to the rest of the building. Okay, so the fire only in one small part of the building, the whole building will not be destroyed. Okay, or what places in Japan and some earthquake prone places in the world is that they make sure that people install certain things in the building design so that when the earthquake happens, the building will not shake so much and the building will not collapse. Okay, another way to manage hazards, to manage danger, is that they do land use planning. Land use planning, basically land use, you plan how to use the land. Okay, so for example, for decades ago, the government actually planned that this plot of land where we are now is used for school, and that's why they built Woodlands Secondary School. Okay, and did you know that you can go and search for the master plan in Singapore? They actually plan that, next to the school, they are actually, the land is empty now, but there's actually plans of how to use it in the future. Okay, so what does land use planning got to do in managing hazards? Well, basically, cities, when they see that certain places in the city are unsafe, for example, it floods easily, or for example, it will shake a lot during an earthquake. Okay, so if they know that some places are unsafe, they will disallow people from building anything there. Okay, so that part of the city will not be destroyed during a hazards. Okay. Another way to do environmental management is also to manage the physical environment. Okay, that means the air, the water, the surroundings of the city. So what can you do to reduce air pollution? You have learned it previously. All right. So one of the key ways is actually they implement laws to reduce the number of vehicles. Okay. So for Singapore, do you know that we have what is COE? COE basically restricts the number of cars in Singapore. Okay. China has an interesting one. Okay. So basically the air in Beijing, China was very polluted. So in 2008, when they were starting to host the Olympics, they actually come up with a scheme to reduce air pollution by reducing the number of cars on the roads. Okay, so what do they do is that, okay, on odd days like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if your vehicle car plate number has odd number, then you can drive. Okay, then on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, only even numbers can drive. So this is how they halve the number of cars and vehicles on the roads. Okay, also you can reduce water pollution. How do you reduce water pollution? Your textbook shared about how we treat water. Okay, so if the water is dirty, is polluted, you can actually process it to remove the polluters. Okay, so that it will not be so polluted anymore. Okay, let me just color this red to indicate that these are the blanks that you filled. Okay, now next thing, let's give details. How do we improve the quality of life of the residents? Well, you can provide safe housing. Okay, now you cannot. It's not just about building good houses so that they will have a nice place to stay. Okay, it's also that you must make sure that the housing is affordable to different groups. Okay, no point building a city of wonderful houses if only the very rich can afford. Then the poor cannot stay there anymore. All right, and of course you must provide a variety of transport modes. That means different ways to travel around the city. So it's not just driving cars. Maybe encourage them to cycle, or maybe encourage them to use public transport. Okay, so cities should provide different ways to travel around the city. What will this do to the number of vehicles? It will reduce it. Okay, and lastly, you should consider the needs of different groups so that it will be safe. Please highlight this, and accessible for every single group of people in the city. Okay, what are some examples you know of in Singapore? Okay, I think you see around. Like for example, in the MRT stations, they actually built this tactile flooring. They didn't have this in the past, Okay, when I was a student, there was no tactile floorings. So what is it meant for? It's actually for the visually handicapped so when they swipe their cane on the ground, the tactile flooring will guide them where to go. Okay, and do you know that in the past, most MRT stations have no lifts. So can you imagine if you're on a wheelchair, or you have a stroller because you are a young parent, okay, how are you going to take the MRT? There's no way. Okay, so public transport was not an option for many in the past actually. All right, then I think you might also watch this before, Green Man Plus. So basically, senior citizens and people with disabilities, they can scan at the traffic light, and the traffic light will extend the amount of time the green man will appear so that they can take their time to cross the road. Okay, so which example you want to use, or you want to use other examples, go ahead. Okay, so some of you actually saw that in your neighborhood, there is playgrounds for the kids and also elderly exercise facilities for the elderlies. All right, so whichever matters most to you, just put it in. Okay, to show how a city cater to the needs of different groups. All right, I will stop here because I will want you to think for each of this strategy or method, how does it lead to a sustainable city? I want you to be able to explain. Okay, I want you to think through. With these details, how does it make a city sustainable? Does it lead to reason 1, reason 2, or reason 3, or more than one of these reasons? Which is why the city will then last into the future, which is why the city is sustainable. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video. I want you to think through. If you think it's reason 1, take reason 1. If you think it's reason 2, you take reason 2. If you think it's reason 3, you take reason 3 for each of the columns. Okay, then to find out the answer, watch the next video. Okay, see you.